Welcome to the Court of History. I'm Sean Wilentz with my colleague down in Washington, Sidney Blumenthal, to say that the court is now in session. Sidney, the CIA is at the center, has long been at the center, since World War II has been at the center of not only American foreign policy, but really of American life in many ways, but certainly of American foreign policy. And like many other institutions, in fact, all political institutions, it is under great stress these days from the new regime. The CIA is really one of Trump's enemies, maybe not enemy number one, but right up there. And he is out to do what he can to undo this institution that has been at the core of, what do we call it, the world order, the NATO order since World War II. Without the CIA, it's unimaginable to imagine what the world would have been like. What do you think Trump's up to, Sidney? What are we doing here?
Trump has decided it is part of the deep state, along with the entire intelligence community, and he has designated it one of his enemies within, out of his pique, that he could not use it as an instrument to maintain his power and to do everything he wanted in his first term, including up to the January 6th insurrection. So we really need to learn a lot about what's going on in this whole period involving the CIA and its history and its involvement, especially with Trump and around the world, in order to understand where we are right now. I mean, this is not something that should be unknown.
Well, that's right. And fortunately, we have right with us today the one person who is best qualified to fill us in not just on the deep background of the CIA, the history of the CIA, but on where we are now and where we might be going. And his name is Tim Weiner. Tim Weiner is the former New York Times correspondent and author whose work has won, among other honors, the Pulitzer Prize and the National Book Award. For the Times, Tim had covered Washington, the intelligence community, and the Pentagon. He reported from around the world, working in such far-flung places as Afghanistan and the Sudan. His History of the CIA, Legacy of Ashes, is widely regarded as the very best book on that fraught and difficult subject. His latest book is the long-awaited sequel to Legacy of Ashes, entitled The Mission, the CIA and the 21st Century. So, welcome to the Court of History. Tim, it's great to see you again. I didn't mention that you taught at Princeton for a while too, which was one of my great pleasures when we were together there. But apart from all of that, I wanted to hone in on particularly the Russia question. One of the things that your book talks about was the inability or the slowness with which American policymakers understood the Russian threat, going back, well before, into the Obama administration, maybe even earlier. A threat that was posed not simply in traditional terms that the CIA knew well, but particularly with regard to cybersecurity. And that there was a cyber war that had been launched really by the Russians, with Cozy Bear and Fancy Bear and all these other things we've heard about. Now, I want to take us back to what I think is a turning point in that cyber war, which was the run-up to the 2016 election. I mean, it was there, I think, that you could see what was going on and was going to be a kind of prelude to what the CIA and Trump are going to be doing together. Why, in fact, the Trump was so down on the CIA going back to that particular election. Do you want to start there and just tell us a little bit about what was going on?
Yes, and thank you for having me. So in 2014, Vladimir Putin and his intelligence services began a campaign of political warfare against the United States. Political warfare, as defined by George Kennan, the great American diplomat of his age in the 40s and 50s, is all the means at a nation's disposal, short of war, to accomplish its foreign policy objectives. And the Russians and Chinese are different in their intelligence services approach to the United States. The Chinese, following the precepts of Sun Tzu, know your enemy, They want to know us. They want information dominance over the United States. They want to project their surveillance state into the United States. The Chinese want to know us. The Russians just want to screw us. That's how they roll. Vladimir Putin's objective was first to kind of do a CAT scan of the American body politic, find out where the open wounds were and rub salt in them to sow discord. And once Trump became a candidate, he was explicit, Putin was, that Trump was his preferred choice to be the next president of the United States. The Russian intelligence services used Facebook, Twitter, the RT, their political news, quote unquote, network, to try and divide us, to denigrate Hillary Clinton, and to support Donald Trump. And the former CIA director, Mike Hayden, called this operation the most successful covert operation since the Trojan horse. And they achieved their objectives. Now, while this was taking place, the Russians hacked into the Democratic National Committee headquarters. They were able to do that because they had already hacked into the unclassified email systems of the White House and the Pentagon, and crucially, the State Department, while Hillary Clinton was Secretary of State. They got unclassified email addresses. They targeted the DNC. And just like Nixon used burglars to break into the Democratic National Committee headquarters back in 1972, they broke in. And their objective was to first find dirt on Clinton if they could, and second, collect all these emails, and using WikiLeaks as a front. And Julian Assange was without question an agent of the Russian Federation in this, to spread all this out like poison confetti into the political theater. The Washington press corps was absolutely transfixed by this, by the confetti, and not by who was doing this, why were they doing it, and who was behind this. The CIA, the FBI, the National Security Agency, the National Security Council under Obama were also watching this happen in the summer of 2016, like a cow watching a train go by. They saw it.
What did they think at the time?
Yeah, what were they thinking?
Tim, your sources are so good, and you talk to the people, subsequently about what was going on. What were they thinking as this train was going by?
It wasn't until late in the summer of 2016 that CIA figured out what was happening. Now, they could have figured this out earlier. Back in 2014, the CIA station chief in The Hague got a tip from his counterpart, the head of Dutch intelligence, that his hackers they were pursuing the Russians, the Dutch were, because a civilian aircraft that was flying from Amsterdam down to Kuala Lumpur. Most of the people on it were Dutch. They were going to a conference. The Russians in occupied eastern Ukraine shot down the civilian airliner, the worst incident of its kind in history, killed everybody on board. So you have about 200 Dutch citizens murdered by the Russians, and the Dutch intelligence service started very aggressively probing the Russians' intelligence network. The Dutch intelligence hackers broke into a university conference room near Red Square, and with the help of CIA's facial recognition technology, figured out that these were Russian intelligence officers, and they were trying to hack into the American government. But neither the FBI nor the CIA nor the National Security Agency really put this picture together until a few weeks before the election. And they put out an anodyne statement to the public. After a long struggle, Obama was very reluctant to appear that he was putting his thumb on the scale of the election. And they put out kind of an anodyne statement that didn't mention Vladimir Putin or the Russian intelligence services, but said something nefarious is happening here. And it happened. And we'll never know whether the Russians, moved one vote or a million votes. But there's no question, none, that the Russians influenced the election and helped elect Donald Trump.
So, Tim, I found it fascinating in your book that someone from the FBI actually called, I believe it was the Clinton campaign.
So, an IT guy.
An IT guy, a technology aide, and told him that they had detected that the Russians were seeking to hack them and that they should be very wary. And the guy said, "Thank you," hung up and didn't tell anybody.
He thought it was a hoax.
He thought it was a hoax. And the FBI never followed up.
We're always fighting the last war. And the understanding of the Russian intelligence services, malware operations, their phishing operations, and the use of social media to poison the collective mind of America. That was not a thing that was understood 10 years ago at all. We understand it now. So the election happens, Trump wins, and Obama says, "I want a very deep dive on this, please. What happened?" In the first week of January 2017, the heads of the CIA and the FBI and the director of national intelligence sit down with Trump and his team, and they tell him what happened. Trump's reaction to this is something, out of Nazi Germany. Who are these jackbooted Gestapo defaming me? This is a hoax, and this is a crime.
Now, the jackbooted Gestapo are who?
The CIA.
Right.
And it was that assessment, which is absolutely undisputed, that the Russians monkey wrenched the election to help Trump, has been confirmed over and over again, for example, by the Senate Intelligence Committee, then controlled by Republicans, a report of 5 volumes that was signed off on by Marco Rubio, who was then heading the Senate Intelligence Committee for the Republicans. This is an uncontroverted fact. Trump has been trying for nearly 9 years now to not only punish the people who did this investigation, but to destroy as best he could the institutions, the CIA and the FBI in particular, who did the research, analysis, and reporting. When Trump was acquitted by the Senate after his first impeachment for extorting Ukraine, withholding weapons, and demanding dirt on the Bidens, this is early 2020, acquitted, he was unleashed, and he began a concerted campaign to put his MAGA acolytes in charge of the American intelligence community. He put John Ratcliffe, now running the CIA, in at the Directorate of National Intelligence. That is the bureaucracy that oversees all 17
Who
different.
is John
Tell us a little bit. Who is John Ratcliffe anyway? Who is this guy?
John
He's
Ratcliffe
now
was,
head of the CIA right now.
yeah, okay.
Right
John
now.
Ratcliffe was a 3-term MAGA congressman, a former personal injury lawyer who won election to Congress with a fraudulent resume, touting him as a brilliant prosecutor of terrorism crimes. And he got Trump's attention, how else, by denouncing the, quote, Russia hoax, unquote, on Fox. Trump liked the cut of his jib and said, hey, this guy's been on the Intelligence Committee for a few months. Let's make him director of the National Intelligence. I like the cut of his jib. Radcliffe is installed atop the intelligence community as a director of national intelligence. His right-hand man, appointed by Trump, is Kash Patel.
Oh my God. Kash Patel. Where does Kash Patel come from?
Kash Patel rose to fame in Trump world by working as an aide to Devin Nunes, who
Remember
was
him?
the Republican head of the House Intelligence Committee, working full time to try and debunk the idea that the Russians helped elect Trump in various nefarious ways. So the two of them tried to ransack the files of the intelligence community. This is, again, 2020, to find the magic document somewhere in a top secret file that would absolve Trump and debunk the, quote, Russia hoax, unquote. Radcliffe, in that position, cut off intelligence reporting to Congress about the Russians, skewed and twisted intelligence reporting on a number of subjects, cut off intelligence briefings to Democrats. And as the 2020 election approached, again, Mike Hayden, former CIA director, tweeted out, this nincompoop is destroying intelligence. He's an idiot. He is politicizing intelligence. Idiot was his Hayden's choice of word. This is a disaster, the politicization of intelligence. And vote for Trump and you'll get more of it. I'm again quoting the former CIA director. We will be a tin pot dictatorship just like Russia or China. Capping all this off, buddy here remember Sidney Powell?
Oh, yeah.
Dude, she was the lawyer for Trump in the Stop the Steal.
Out of her
involved in the insurrection.
A lunatic. She convinces Trump that Gina Haspel, then the head of the CIA, has a secret server that has hacked into the election software and stolen millions of votes from Trump and for Joe Biden. And that Haspel has absconded to Germany, and a secret strike force of American commandos needed to fly off to Germany and arrest her. And
Tim, this sounds like a corollary. I don't want to interrupt this whole fascinating story, but this sounds like a corollary to the conspiracy theory that Hillary Clinton had got the Ukrainians to create a server to somehow try and tilt the election of 2016, and that was really what was behind the so-called Russia hoax.
Right.
And Trump.
It's the B side of that single. That's right.
Yeah. And Trump, in your book, you note that Trump asks Putin personally if this is true, and Putin confirms it is. And then what happens at Helsinki? What does Trump say when he's asked about this, and then please go back to the
Yeah.
B-side.
So back to 2018, Trump and Putin are in Helsinki. The question is asked at their joint press conference. So the entire U.S. intelligence community thinks the Russians hacked the election. Putin says he didn't. What do you think, President Trump? And President Trump says, well, he says he didn't do it. I believe him.
And what about the server? And what about the server? What about the server, right?
Yeah, and then in the next breath, he says, where's the server? And the entire
Is there a server?
What the hell is he talking about? What server?
Has the CIA determined whether there's a server?
There is no server.
Right.
Right.
There never was a server.
Let's go back to the B side that flows from this in a way.
So Gina Haspel is the head of the CIA, and she has done a stellar job of being a heat shield for the CIA against Trump's relentless attacks on the agency. So the election has happened. And as you will remember, it took 10 days to certify the results, but Trump has lost. So Trump is bound and determined to reverse the results of the election. And one way he's going to do this is to find the elusive CIA server that hacked into the election machines. And to do that, he's going to fire Gina Haspel and install Kash Patel as the head of the CIA. By this time, Trump has purged most of the intelligence agencies and put his acolytes in charge. He's got a flunky at the Pentagon. He's got a flunky installed at the National Security Agency. He's going to find the damn white whale.
And where are we in
And the difference between Trump and Captain Ahab at this point is that there was a white whale.
Yeah.
All right. Yes.
In Moby
I know
Dick.
that book too.
There ain't
Yes.
no white whale here.
And
Yeah,
this,
where
now we're
are we
talking
in
about
time?
this,
So
We're
Trump
after
is determined to fire Gina Haspel.
and this is around
It's after the
2021,
2020
2020.
election. And at the same time, Mike Flynn and Sidney Powell have wormed their way into the White House.
Right.
And they're convincing Trump to declare martial law. So Gina Haspel gets wind of this. She hasn't been to the White House for a while. Briefing Trump is a fool's errand, and it's a COVID vector of the highest order. But she drives down. This is, I guess, 11 December of 2022, and confronts Trump. We don't know precisely what was said, but we do have it on secondhand hearsay. She basically said, if you fire me, the entire intelligence community will resign in protest. It won't look good for you. I mean, she did everything but hold up a hand grenade and say, see this? Should I pull it? And Trump, coward that he is, backs down. And Kash Patel never becomes head of the CIA, much to his regret. So having failed to subvert the CIA and the FBI and the rest of the intelligence services, Trump then puts out a tweet in the early morning hours of 12 September after having failed to fire Haspel and says, we're going to have a big rally January 6th. Everybody come. We'll be wild.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. And we know what happened after that.
Yeah. So tell us.
But Sid, we're running out of time. I don't want to cut anything off, but we're running out of time for part one, and I wanted to pick this up in part two if we can. Is that all right, Sidney? You got it straight, clear?
Eager to continue in part two. So everyone who has watched part one must now understand that this is the perils of Pauline, and we're on the edge of the cliff. And
the locomotive
democracy is tied to the tracks. The train is coming.
Train is coming.
We're going to be back for part two.
So, for now, temporarily, the court of history is adjourned.
Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.